Hey folks, this is KZ. Welcome back to I Played a Thing, which is my irregular gaming impression series, where I talk about games that I've been playing. This time, I was provided a code by Inti Creates to check out their new game, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2, which I was happy to oblige because it involves Koji Igarashi. This is his own take on Castlevania, because he was the big Castlevania guy over at Konami. And then when he split, he made his own series called Bloodstained. Curse of the Moon specifically was the 8-bit throwback style stretch goal for his main Kickstarter. And it found itself a decent amount of success, so that 8-bit throwback got itself a sequel, which is the game we're playing now. Specifically, it's shooting for more of a Castlevania 3 style game, where you end up getting multiple different characters as you go through 2D side-scrolling levels. You can hot swap to these different characters on the fly and take on some lavishly detailed bosses. And I think it's a lot of fun. In the game, you have access, at least for the bulk of it, you have access to 4 main characters. You have Zangetsu, who is your basic sword-wielding samurai type dude. He has some nice close range attacks. He has a decent amount of health and some interesting sub-weapon tools. Overall, I feel like he's the nice middle ground that you would expect. Then you have Dominique, who is with the church. She has a pretty good long spear, which she can use as a pogo on enemies. She has better range with it. She has a superior jump. And she has some really good sub-weapons in the form of spells, where some spells let her create a plant that will hatch hearts that can heal people up, so you could activate that plant, then switch to another character to heal them. And she even has a very useful and very rare song sub-weapon that can be activated, and this will just straight up heal everyone and revive people, which I found really saved some runs, because once a character dies, you then have to keep going with whoever's left, and once everyone's dead, you lose what is effectively a true life. So, say you have 5 lives, you haven't truly lost one until everyone's gone. From there, we of course have Robert, which is the weakest of all the characters with the lowest amount of health, but is a bit more agile. He has a wall jump, he can go prone and crawl around. He uses a long gun, which has infinite range, and also some interesting sub-weapon stuff, like a grenade. He's got these like anti-air spears, I guess you could say, and then some other stuff like a super powered sub-weapon that makes him like go full mask off and just busts out dual pistols and just starts blasting people. Overall, I think his gameplay is really fun, with his main flaw just being that he is very, very easy to die with, because he can only take about 3, maybe 4 hits before he's done. Gotta be really careful with him. Lastly, though, if you're looking for something real bulky, we've got Hachi, which is a dog. It is a corgi inside a mech, and might be my favorite character to play as. It has some really useful stuff here. It's got a cool punch. Whenever you jump down onto spikes, you don't take damage with Hachi, because it's in a giant mech. It'll just shatter those spikes for you. It has a hover, which is really useful, a ground pound, and instead of traditional sub-weapons, it instead uses your sub-weapon energy to just become invincible. This is really great when you find yourself in certain rooms where clearly they want you to use it because the enemy is just shooting an infinite supply of hazards at you that you can't avoid. Or if you're like me and you run into a boss where their hitbox is stationary, you turn on that invincibility and just start mashing attack until the boss is dead, which it is so satisfying to do that. I'd say the major flaw with Hachi is that at times I found that the hover just doesn't work the way you want it to at times, where it's like you feel like the hover is going to work when you want it to, but it doesn't. It comes out weirdly. It's because it's tied to jumping and holding, but if you like try to tap, it doesn't work. I just felt like there were plenty of times that I either hovered by accident or expected a hover and didn't really get it. But overall, I think this team works. They have really nice synergy, and all of the levels are very well suited to them. That you'll find yourself constantly switching from room to room, and multiple times in a room, because there are certain things that are hard counters in terms of the enemies you're coming up against. Overall, I think level design is fairly solid. It's pretty much what you would expect from a Castlevania-style game. There is no shortage of pits, different enemies, alternate entrances to go into based on what character you're using. The bosses are pretty fun, tough, but fair at times. And the enemy design seems pretty on point as well. In terms of these throwback games, there's always a risk of the game feeling like they're making something that is NES hard, but not fun. And I feel like this game avoids that for the most part. To be fair, toward the end of the game, I finally started just scaling back and went on to the more casual difficulty that eliminates knockback, because I am miserable at these types of games. That's always been a thing. But I felt good getting through like 6 stages without having to do that. It's just, once you reach a lot of those stages where they're like, we have positioned this shit so they're gonna shoot you almost immediately with a thing, the knockback's gonna throw you into the pit perfectly. I'm like, it just gets you. It gets you. Moving on to talk about something else. The bosses, I think, are really, really cool. All the sprite work here looks top notch. It includes some bosses that were from the core Bloodstained game, Ritual of the Night, but also plenty of new ones. And the whole thing's just really well put together. Some really cool death animations that are a mix of some where they try to do one last desperate attack to kill you, and some where they don't do that, and instead a new party member is unlocked, and then they come in and take out the boss for you, which I think is pretty dynamic and neat. Overall, there's like 8 stages, and then you're done with the game, or at least you would be, but they have a lot more to show you, I guess. This game is episode-based. So after you complete your first run of the game, you unlock episode 2, where they cut one of the characters, so you only have access to 3, and then you have to go through the game again. Only this time, the game's slightly harder. The bosses are a lot stronger, and it's like the nightmare mode from the original Curse of the Moon. But this time they're making it more obvious that there's more plot to get into, so keep playing to get to the true ending. I ended up stopping my playthrough for now around this point, though I am aware that in later episodes you'll unlock all the other characters from the previous Curse of the Moon, and they do some different stuff with the levels order and its formula. There's multiple endings and stuff, but for now I've kind of got my fill. It was kind of a bummer that you kind of have to play the game multiple times to get the true scope of things, and it was also disappointing to hear that the other characters from the previous game are available, but you don't really get them until much later. But it doesn't hurt as much because I like this cast a lot. In fact, I would say that I prefer this core cast of 4 characters over the combo of 4 characters we got in Curse of the Moon. There's not much else to really say about the game. Overall, I think it's fun. It is enjoyable to go through. Really satisfying to take down some bosses. I feel like it's not too difficult that I find myself just finding it a chore to play. Visually, it looks really, really sharp, really nice. I played this on Nintendo Switch. It ran perfectly fine. The music's pretty good. Not the most memorable, but I feel like some tracks did pump me up, especially toward the end. And yeah, I definitely say I'm enjoying it. In the end, I never got the true ending in the first game, and I'm gonna hopefully try and do it on this one, but for the few hours I put into this, I think it's pretty solid. If you're interested, definitely check it out. There's also the original Curse of the Moon, but then, of course, there's the core Bloodstained game itself, Ritual of the Night, which is also worth your time for sure. That was one of my favorite games last year. But we're getting off topic. This has been I Played a Thing, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. It is available now. Consider giving it a look if you're looking for some retro side-scrolling action. That's it for me. I'll see you next time when I have played another thing.